And now on Exhibition for Chickens TV, a discussion about Exhibition for Chickens. I'd just like to introduce Simon Moretti here for today's conversation. Simon is a contributor to the Exhibition for Chickens and has also been just an invaluable support from the beginning. Immediately kind of seemed enthused by the idea and spread the word to lots of his friends. And so, yeah, big part of the process and a big part of the exhibition. So, yeah, thank you for joining me and being involved, Simon.
Well, thank you for doing such a wonderful show, and to you and all the exhibition team. I think you've put together something really exciting. And, it's interesting how the whole project kind of, developed from Instagram and grew and grew and grew in an organic way. And, I think we all just responded to your enthusiasm and to such a great idea. And, initially I was kind of interested from the kind of maybe Fluxus point of view. I was thinking of some kind of absurd, setting for an exhibition. But then I realized that you can actually go in so many different directions with this. There's a whole issue about interspecies connection and language. There's a kind of ecological aspect to it. I think what's really great, it was also to be reminded of just a very simple and raw way that you could do an exciting project from anywhere and with not very much means, in very simple ways. And that really appealed to me because, I'm always interested being an artist and a curator and curating being part of my practice in different types of exhibition devices or embodiment, how a book or a CD or an event can be an exhibition. So I just love that kind of energy. And actually, Amelia was saying that, getting your project or getting involved is a bit of a lifeline in this lockdown scenario. And I think that was true for all of us. Certainly I found it really inspiring to feel connected, to have this conversation. I really enjoyed your conversations with other people, and I think they're a really intrinsic part of the project. So, from the ornithologist to Amalia just now to Rita Evans, who, deals with sound, it's been just really rich and great. And I think you can just keep growing with it. And I also, I like the fact that you're having an online archive, and of course there's Instagram TV and your feed. But I think you can also still continue to grow and develop this. Like, I can see an archive of this project as an exhibition somewhere. I think maybe the idea of making some kind of publication, I always love the way that can be another manifestation of an exhibition, and it's also a legacy. And I think also right now, because in a way we had to do all of this being separated, obviously, and virtually connect. So maybe to end up with something that is also a tangible object that people can enjoy in their house can also be an interesting thing to do. But, there's just so many directions you can go with it.
The most surprising thing about it is that each day, or I'm not sure if that's the way to divide it, but at each stage where I thought, oh, I could do that, there was nothing stopping me. And nothing stopping anyone else, because from the beginning there was no plan for it. It was just I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this point, and then I will wait and see what comes, and then things sort of urges come, and so obviously anyone sending in their work would want to see it. So even though the work is for the chickens and it's set in this place that's remote and not open to anyone, I think the very least that one can do is present it back to people, because because we've got a whole range of people who are sort of proud of their drawing of a chicken that they've done, to people who are sort of making sound works and more, maybe perhaps more complex interventions. But I think each and every one needs sort of evidence that I did actually show this work to the chickens and it didn't just sort of disappear somewhere. Although maybe that
Yeah.
would have been funny as well.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then
That's
there's
the
how you
next
present it.
project.
Yeah, that's the next one. And then it was like, well, in my day-to-day life before this happened, I would be making films, and I'd be for institutions, and they would take, and I can't say anything bad about institutions, it's just the way things are, but it's always laborious. It's always sort of too many steps that aren't necessary, or and this was an opportunity to do something that didn't have that, and actually find that it's just as compelling, if not more compelling, to do something like that than something that's being sort of chipped away. So there's all sorts of things in the way that the films are presented, and doing live things, and then kind of putting them on YouTube. And I've been watching lots of like car reviews on YouTube towards the end of last year, and they're all like trying to get people's attention. So they put on the thumbnail like really lurid graphics,
Really?
to sort of, that isn't actually part of the film, but they put these
to attract
people's attention. And I thought, well, you could totally do that with why don't I just do that? So there's no brand for Exhibition for Chickens. I was just like Arial font, bold, bright pink, curators talk. And it's like,
but it's all becoming part of it. I mean, I love the logo of your Exhibition for Chicken TV. I thought the invitation around the egg was absolutely genius, and it was great to see the behind the scene. I mean, it's like you've been so thorough, and that there it is, and it's just amazing. And I think that's exactly what I love. It's like the simplicity of what you started off with, and it's so freeing and liberating that you can do something like this, from anywhere in the world as well. And I think this is the kind of energy that we all need to be reminded of. It's really revitalizing, and I think even more actually in the years ahead, probably after all this crisis, with whatever is going to happen with the art world, with galleries, whatever, to be reminded that actually to be an artist, to be a curator, you can just do exciting things in so many different ways. I was thinking about Hansel Ulrich Obrist, one of his first exhibition was in a kitchen. So, so I really like the spirit and the energy of the project. And it's really, and I think this is also why, people responded so well to it. Everyone I kind of mentioned it or, got excited about getting them involved, was very enthusiastic about it. And you've done great things with installing all the works, and you've been very attentive about how to place them.
I've tried to think about, because it's the first show I put together, so I was thinking about the times I'd witnessed, curators working, so decisions that are being made, and tried to apply that.
You're being great.
I did wonder what you thought about, obviously this is such a weird time and unusual, and do you think if I had put this out this time last year and suggested I wanted to do this, and I don't think I would have done this time last year because I don't think it would have occurred to me, or there'd have been a million reasons not to do it. Do you think it would have had the same response from people? Or do you think
difficult to know. I mean, perhaps not exactly the same. I think it definitely touched on something. And, I think that was the other kind of interesting parallel that, if you think about chicken being cooped into the, enclosure, everyone has been kind of enclosed in their house. And also even more, I guess, connecting with other people through all various social medias. So, I don't think it would have been probably the same reaction. But on the other hand, actually, I find that with the whole Instagram community has been very productive for artists, has been very interesting, certainly for me. I find it a really great research tool. I've connected with people. I've found out about some obscure exhibition in LA or that I would never have known, or even some great books that someone is recommending and reading in their studio. So I think you would have still had a lot of enthusiasm, and I think this was still very possible. I think right now it's even more urgent, and yeah, I think people got even more excited about it. But I think generally, yeah, I think you would still have a very positive response.
I was trying not to ask too much. I guess that's the first thing, because I was conscious that people,
Mhm.
certainly artists, some artists would be doing quite a lot of work for I don't know, charitable things at the moment, or other artists would be working to try and sell,
Mhm.
£200 works to make
Mhm.
ends meet for the support pledge and stuff. And I didn't want to feel like a burden to put this onto people. Um,
No,
and
I don't think so. If anything, you give people something really exciting to look forward to and to share, and it's been really great way to for all of us to feel connected. It's also very timely, apart from the current crisis. But with all the ecological crisis, we've been thinking about how humanity exists with the animal world, or how abuses the animal world, and the sort of all sorts of aspects of it, which are really fascinating. And actually, I was thinking about artworks that involved animals. I mean, obviously, the first one that came to mind was the Joseph Boyd's performance with the coyote. Then I thought about others like more architectural interventions. So I was thinking about Karsten Oller and Rosemary Trockel did a house for pigs in Documenta 10, which I think is also quite interesting because they were kind of also displaying the animal as this kind of wonder as part of their sculptural installation. But also, there's a show that I've co-curated that is on now at Kate McGarry of Rose Finkelsey. That was actually one of my closest friends. And one work from the 70s is called One for Sorrow, Two for Joy. And it's actually a documentation of a wonderful performance she did where she was cohabiting a space which was actually a window. She was negotiating the space with two magpies. And she did a lot of projects also about this idea of attempting some sort of communication with them. And this idea of maybe the need of creating another language. So all of those things are really quite fascinating because, in a way, the exhibition is, of course, for the chickens, but it's also interesting that, in a way, the exhibition is very much for us in all the things that we've been kind of talking about.
yeah, there's all of that, and there's also this idea of making more of a connection. So we obviously have a relationship with our chickens, and you can break it down into different. There's the sort of joy that they bring us in the fact that they are lovely
Yeah.
things, nice to look at, lovely to hold and stroke, and almost pets. And then there's the nutrition they give us from their eggs
Mm-hmm.
that we take from them. There's eggs that we sell to the village, local
Ah,
people,
great.
that pays for their food.
Ah, great.
So, they sort of earn their keep.
Mm.
But it's unbalanced, and I guess this is some way to sort of find another way to communicate with them to show our appreciation for them.
Yeah, and it's providing some other stimuli. I mean, we don't know to what degree, they had an effect or engaged or not, positive or negative, but it's certainly an attempt to. Certainly, the goats very much enjoyed interacting with the exhibition.
Yeah.
But, I think that's also really part of this whole thing. I think it's great in a way,
I mean, I'm
I
glad that
mean,
they're not original
yes,
thoughts.
no, exactly. But the ephemerality of this is also very important in a way. And actually, the other thing it made me think of when, you ask people to either send you postcard or email their contribution, that's also liberating. The fact that right now, with whatever is going on, maybe there will be a resurgence of things like mail art, for example. It's also freeing not to feel so kind of under pressure about, creating an object, framing it, all of this kind of stuff. So with this kind of challenge or contribution, you can do things you don't usually do, and that's quite liberating, and try things out, and.
So tell me about your contribution then.
I've got the original here, actually. Let's see if you can see it again. Maybe yeah, can you see it? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I went for this one. In fact, interestingly enough, this is one of a series of collage that I've been making in lockdown. So I've made it before you asked me, and it's interesting because, well, I work a lot with collage. I work in an automatic way. I've got this archive of images and letters and all sorts of things that then I put together in this kind of automatic way. So, but I was already interested in the fact that having made these during this time of lockdown, unconsciously I could see that maybe there were some references to what was going on, in out there in the rest of the world. So of course, cutting up the faces made me think of masks. The pattern made me think of some kind of diagram of something. So it's interesting for me in a way how without being autobiographical ever, but how whatever you're surrounded by affects the choices that you make. But the first thing I did when you asked for a contribution, I checked online if chickens could see color. That was my first thing, and then I thought, well, color and pattern could be a really interesting way of trying to grab their attention. And the funniest thing is that actually I had made one with an egg as well. But funny enough, it didn't even occur to me. I guess it was just too obvious. And I was thinking about what could be stimulating for them.
So that's a
So
process.
I don't know.
That's a process of editing after. So you would work and make several collages, and then make connections and sort of save some until they're appropriate to show. Is that kind of?
I don't really allow censorship. So what I make is what you see, and I don't really. I mean, very rarely there might be one that I think, oh, this is really not going anywhere somehow. But most of the time, actually, I find really important that I'm not making too many decisions, that I'm doing it in a very kind of automatic way, because I feel like there's some truth in that. Because also I'm interested in the fact that in a way, I sort of save images from the world and, from newspapers and old books and magazine, and I then reconfigure them in a new system, which is another system. It's not chance, it's just another system, So in a way, actually, that was the other thing that interests me about this project, the fact that I used often images of animals in my work, mainly because I like to mix different kind of universe dimensions, realities together. So geological things, animal world, history of art. I like the idea of all these systems colliding and coming up with a new system. And in a way, there's a relationship with what you've been doing, in a sense of us as a group of artists. Through you invading the chicken space.
Yeah, and coming and sort of visiting mostly from the city as well. Like, it seems to be London. We had artists from New York.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite interesting that work is coming from these sort of hotspots in a way, and coming here where
Mm-hmm.
we're quite lucky because we do have this space, and the chickens are sort of shielded from that sort of bad news. And had that kind of experience.
But also I find that the fact that you've got this small holding, this farm, and that you live in the country. I mean, it's very grounding to be with nature, to be with animals. I mean, that's one of the things that I love the most about when I am, in those kind of situations. So also it's interesting because your experience of the lockdown is very different from mine, being in central London, and from someone being in New York or whatever.
Yeah, I think we don't have close neighbours, so we can't visit, in the same way that you could sort of look out of your door and have that kind of connection with the people.
You only see people from a distance. Yeah.
So that's interesting, and the way that sort of we experience goods and services being delivered. It's not the same as like ordering food out or something like that. It's big delivery trucks, and it's infrequent, I suppose. So we have that kind of yeah, we're having a quieter. I guess we're having a quieter lockdown, and we're feeling. I'm feeling slightly liberated now in the way that you're saying, talking about this invitation was
Mm.
liberating. I'm now feeling slightly liberated, and I. This sounds really like a cliche now, but the or very corny. But actually, it was when I had the freedom that I was feeling more kind of constrained, I suppose, which is quite an interesting thought, isn't it? That
Mm.
when you're when you're sort of forced into a situation like this, it might actually be helpful in unleashing something new and different.
But I think as always, the great thing about artists is that they can work with anything, and you can make something out of nothing, literally, and you can, yeah. I mean, certainly for me, I mean, the first few weeks of the lockdown, I was still kind of processing what was going on, and I just didn't feel like I could be in a space of making something. And then I sort of took the plunge and I started making this collage. And then for like 2, 3 weeks, I was totally on a roll. And actually, yeah, I mean, the fact that, ultimately, what's also really great about this is just that in a scenario that is so disempowering, this is empowering you and it's empowering us. And that's just goes such a long way.
Yeah, I think it shows that, as you say, like I guess I shouldn't have really been surprised that it attracted people's contributions because I mean I think I mentioned that to Rebecca, my wife, and said, "Oh, this is amazing. Just getting this stuff in." She was like, "Well, maybe they enjoyed they enjoy
Yeah.
making art," and it's like, "Well, of course, yeah, that's what they do, and that's
You
what
know what really
that's what
made
we
it
do."
actually was you going for it and like having these exhibition meetings in the car.
Yeah. Okay.
That level of be able to kind of connect with someone on a human level and no pressure, no expectation, just a guy with a great idea doing stuff.
Well, that's what I think. I was very. I mean, I guess I wasn't. This wasn't done in a thinking way, but it was all part of this thing. I was sort of telling Amalia that I was like, I'm not going to feel embarrassed or put
Hmm.
this, make this into something um, that I'm anxious about. And one way to do that was to just be totally honest. So yeah, the talk you're talking about the car chats that I filmed in like a sort of vlog
Ah,
style
yeah,
thing,
yeah,
and
yeah.
um, yeah, again, it's about sort of embracing that kind of honesty um, and adopting that language of Instagram as well. So just
Hmm.
not trying to be cool or anything like that.
Hmm.
Like so mimicking the videos where someone sits and chats, and it was quite a thing to pluck up the courage to do it. Actually,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm used to talking to people off the camera, right?
Mm.
And so I thought, well, it shouldn't be too difficult. And then um, yeah, then I sort of actually quite enjoyed it. I could see why people do it.
Hmm.
But I think it was important for this project that people knew that I was thinking about it and thinking about it regularly. And I
Hmm.
was genuinely like the first time I was trying to describe it, I went around the field and I said, oh, it obviously doesn't matter what kind of quality we get
Hmm.
in because it's open submission and I've whatever it
Hmm.
is. And I suddenly felt really bad about that. So I had to sort of do a kind of confessional video where I was like, I said something yesterday that I really regret. And but it's all part of thinking about how the exhibition is framed. And what's interesting about it, there is an interesting aspect to this, the fact that it's open submission. So sort of bringing that all together and then not having sort of forcing myself not to select.
It's all very subjective. It's not even about good or bad or in the market, not in the market, professional or not. I mean, it's about just responding to this idea in a visual way, or actually not just a visual way. You had sound, you had performance, text.
But I
Uh,
do think there is sort of there's a pecking order to use the sort of um, in terms of that's kind of a chicken would have that order. They would have it worked out. Who's the top? Who's at the top of this flock, and who gets the respect and who doesn't. And I
mm,
don't want it to be like that with people, obviously.
yeah.
But then I suppose there's always a judgment when you look around an exhibition. what's successful and what's not.
But also, what there's different degrees of success. What is success? I mean, somebody can be a phenomenon of the market for this time and moment in time, but actually the work is so uninteresting to so many people. And then often you find some really undiscovered, incredible artists, or artists from the past that needs to sort of be looked at again, that gets you really inspired and excited. So, also I'm very interested in what is so-called outsider art, and all sorts of things. It's all about humanity and humanity making images, and I don't know, that really interests me. I mean, I'm all about systems colliding, so different framing devices joining in some kind of way. So,
Oh, I think that the unity that sort of comes from inviting just everyone to contribute to something has been a really just a gift to have that.
But some kind of projects are like that. They are kind of experimental, open submission, and see what happens. And it's about responding to an idea. I've done some of these myself. I've responded to others in the past, and that's why I was thinking also about Fluxus and those kind of things. I mean, I'm a very good friend with the Swiss artist John Amlader. And actually, at the beginning of his career, he was part of a really exciting performance and installation kind of Fluxus group in Geneva. And I know he was very influenced by John Cage, for example, And so I've learned a lot from him. He's learned a lot from John Cage. But a lot of it is about liberation. It's about ideas. It's about I mean, I love his attitude. He would always say to me, for example, the exhibition that is in the gallery, whatever happens, that's what's meant to be. So, once an art transport pierced one of his paintings, some kind of metal pole went through it. And he was like, oh no, this is wonderful. This is live. This is how it's meant to be. This is how the work is going to be. And there's incredible stories about chance or like Sigma Polka. Apparently there was a show in Germany, the entire show was hung upside down, and he arrived and he said, this is wonderful. So at the end you had the catalog the right way up and the exhibition upside down. So here we're talking about accident as well. I've sort of gone on about John Cage, but this kind of open projects, this kind of, I think is always just so revitalizing, actually. And like I was saying to you earlier, it's inspired me to do things. So I'm now thinking about possibly a project that I might do through Instagram and maybe having some conversations of myself, whatever. But I find that, it's this kind of snowball effects of ideas, enthusiasm,
Yeah, Rita was saying that she's going to think about outdoors more, in her work, and I think that's a great outcome to have if someone can see. And
So how do you see, now it's a question for you, how do you see the project going forward?
It's not even all completely down. The goats have taken most of it down, and I had thought that I might try and reprint a lot of them and put them inside chicken houses so that they do get one last sort of good look at it. The life is, I would like to do a catalogue. I'd like to continue doing conversations with artists.
I think you should,
and keep putting them out. And, I'm getting, again, this thing of showing artists their work in the context. So I want to try and yield some high quality-ish images that I can send the artist so that they have a record of it. So, it should exist as an archive. Instagram TV is like, I'm not entirely sure how people find stuff on Instagram TV, but YouTube, I mean, I like the idea of Instagram TV, but I think a YouTube channel is probably the most sort of useful space for archiving the work, and hopefully, I don't know, I've thought of the idea of kind of a bit like the initial call out, maybe asking other people to send videos of their responses, perhaps, but as you say, like it can just go. I think there's not going to be an end point.
No, but also, the exhibition for chickens will live forever. Through the archive, the catalog, the YouTube channel. And this is what I'm saying to you. It's like, I mean, I don't see this being just the physical exhibition around the chicken houses. You know, it's very much, they're all manifestations of the project. So for me, this is as much part of the project as the artwork hanging in the chicken house. And you know, and the archive is going to be the same, and the TV channel is going to be the same, and it's going to be interesting to see where some of this conversation take you. You know,
I think it's very possible that chickens will become a sort of footnote of it. There won't be. It'll be.
yeah, yeah. That the conversation grows and grows. But as I said, it could go in so many different directions. I mean, also, you know, I absolutely adore your goats.
Yeah, maybe that's.
You might have a performance festival for the goats, though. That's a different story.
Yeah, I think we'll see. But no, I think that the main kind of takeaway is that, as you say, there's no limit really. There's the only limit is people's generosity, and I don't think there is a limit to people's generosity.
No, this is it. I mean, you know, if someone likes the idea and they're enthusiastic and they you know pick up on your enthusiasm, it's actually one of the most rewarding thing, really. I mean, you know, even with artists that do lots of shows or whatever, you know, it's like the most rewarding shows are not necessarily the big blockbusters or the show where you sold most work. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think artists respond to ideas. Actually, yeah, I want to show you just to as a way to leave you, because we were talking about eggs and performance. This, I don't know if you can see, but can you see?
Yeah.
This is a post on Instagram a few days ago, and it's me 22 years ago at the Serpentine Gallery reenacting a work by Piero Manzoni called The Consumption of Art by an Art Devouring Public. And the work is that you basically you have boiled eggs in the space and you print your fingerprint on them, and then you distribute them to the public to eat, so the artwork disappears. And this is actually Manzoni doing it himself. So, you know, I mean, he wasn't really part of Fluxus, but there's a kind of Fluxus element to it. But, you know, in the exhibition at the Serpentine, which was curated by Germano Celent, which is the reason why I put this on when he died, this work was just this kind of, you know, literally dried up egg in a vitrine. I mean, you know, it didn't have the force of the original work, which was a performance event where the actual artwork is meant to disappear, you know. So that's where my idea of reenacting the work was about bringing life back into the work. But yeah, no, it just seemed topical as we were talking about chicken and eggs.
Chicken and egg. But yeah, that also seems like a generous act that you did to kind of bring that work to life and to also feed people, and it looked like a lot of fun.
For me, it was about bringing life back into what was meant to be the work, you know. But also, you know, it talks about the symbolism and the kind of religious ritual of the egg. And I was very interested to be reminded about the use of eggs in Dali's work by Amalia Pica, and of course the museum in Guatemala, which is fantastic build. Really must look him up. It's literally the shape of an egg, and it's quite small, but it's a really great thing.
Yeah, I've learned an awful lot from you and from Amalia and the other artists. There's lots to. I think that's the other. I guess that's the other outcome, is that I would like some time to think about all these different threads and like everyone else as well to do the same. And
but also, you know, you don't have to feel under pressure to follow just one of them. Just follow them all. You know, there's no rules. It's like, go for it. This is why this was so great, you know?
Yeah, no, it was great. I'm really pleased that everyone was into it, and like, because it was personally very satisfying for me, and personally quite therapeutic, I think, as well to do this. So yeah.
You know, also the other thing I thought was interesting is that in this time of contagion, it was actually really great to have a more positive contagion, which is the enthusiasm and the project, because it did feel a bit like that. You know, it's like we all responded to your enthusiasm doing your blogs in the car, and then continue with all these talks and live Instagram, you know. So it feels like a much more positive spread.
Definitely, we need that. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for everything. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of everything.
Absolutely.